This episode of Going Forward is brought to you by Optmyzr, an award-winning PPC management tool used by advertisers worldwide. Save time and boost the performance of your PPC campaigns on Facebook, Amazon, and Google or Microsoft. Get a 14-day free trial at optmyzr.com/go/VIP.
Welcome to Going Forward, where inspiring conversations with leaders and entrepreneurs shape tomorrow. Dive into the depths of their journeys, the hurdles they've overcome, and the insights they bring to the future. Let's get moving right here, right now on Going Forward.
Man, Going Forward Nation, what's going on? This is Elliott. I want to welcome you, Going Forward Nation, to another episode of Going Forward. I'm going to pick this energy up a little bit because I have a superstar in the building. She's not in my building. She's in her building. You guys have probably seen her on Instagram, and I'm going to talk her up for a little bit because before the show, she started, she was real. She's real modest, and humble people. But I'm going to tell you about Jessica Tehlirian, right? She's a force, man. She's a force. I actually discovered her on Instagram, and I'm like, who is this? And I started seeing all the things that Jessica was involved in. And Jessica is not just an attorney, she's an entrepreneur, she's an advocate. She's helping put people through school, if you can believe that. I mean, think about it. I want to talk to her about that too, on why she decided to say, like, I want to do a scholarship program and help other people. She started her career out and working in a law firm. You guys may know it as the Johnny Cochran law firm. She has been a state's attorney. She owns her own practice. Let me tell you about some of the awards. A couple of the awards: top 40 civil plaintiff lawyers issued by the National Trial Lawyers in 2018 and 2019. Also top 40 National Bar Association. Also top 300 Black Women Award in 2024. I don't know if I got enough time to keep talking about all your awards, Jessica. So I want to thank you for coming to the show, and thank you for being part of Going Forward Nation, Jessica. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for that warm welcome. I definitely appreciate it.
My goal is to have a better welcome than Nori on the Drink Champs podcast. So, if anybody's ever listened to that before. But, Jessica, I talked about, some of your achievements a little bit. But, for those folks who don't know you, I mean, let's tell them who you are, tell them the name of your firm, where you are, and then we're going to dive into it. I want people to get to know you.
Okay, sounds good. So my name is Jessica Tehlirian. You actually got it right. A lot of people butcher my name, so I appreciate that on the first try. I'm from Detroit, Michigan, and I moved to Florida in 2012, and that's where I went to law school at Florida State. I also got my MBA from Florida State as well, and then I moved to Atlanta in 2020, and I've been doing personal injury since 2018, and my decade as an attorney actually just came up a couple of days ago. So I've been an attorney for 10 years now.
Wow, congratulations. I know it's hard for you to pick who you want to go for during football season because you got Michigan and you got Florida State over here. So it's tough.
Well, tough. Michigan's usually a lot better recently. So I typically, and you kind of feel more like attached to your undergrad. So I usually always go with my undergrad.
Yeah.
So
All right. So, Jessica, I was dying to talk to you, man. And I kept seeing you on Instagram, and I watched you for a good while. Because I really liked how aggressive you were, not only in your own brand, but also just the firm as well, And I wanted to ask you, tell me about like your background. How did you say, like, I wanted to be an attorney? Because, man, that's a lot of education in between. What propelled you to say, like, I want to do this? I want to be a personal injury attorney.
So for me growing up, and it's kind of funny because I never really used to talk about this. I actually just spoke about this like a month ago. I was speaking at the pre-law summit. I was a keynote speaker. And I just decided I was going to talk about it. And so I guess since I've already put it out there, I'll talk about it as well here. I think a lot of people, they see me and they see this version of me, and I've been an attorney for 10 years now. So they kind of just see Jessica as an attorney, Jessica as a traveler, or whatever type of lifestyle that I have. And they really don't know what I had to do to get here. I had a lot of, adversity growing up. Like my mom was making like probably $13,000 a year. We didn't really have like food, water, shelter. Those were always being called into question. I was in like foster care. my mom was raising us by herself. I was a victim of like so many crimes starting off at like age of 12, and it just kept going on throughout my life. And for me, I feel like school was like that like safe space for me where it was just kind of like I could get those grades, and it kind of gave me some type of hope because I was thankfully always naturally inclined with my schooling. So I would get like the A's and stuff, and I'm like, okay, this could be like a way out of here for my siblings. I can be a role model for them. Like I have, I'm the oldest sister, so I could be a role model for all of my younger siblings.
Yeah.
I could help people kind of that look like me that are in these situations. And I think that has really pushed me because, like, I'm an attorney, but my real passion is more so like the philanthropic stuff, the volunteering, the mentorship. That's where like my heart really beats. And I do love being an attorney. I do love getting results for my clients. But where I just feel like so fulfilled is helping students and everything. And with the personal injury, when I became an attorney, the reason why I wanted to do that was kind of like for my own personal story. Like I had a crash, my back was really hurt. I couldn't walk for a little bit, and I had an attorney. As soon as I was able to walk, which was like a couple weeks later, he dropped me and didn't even really care about my case. And I feel like a lot of
Wow.
people, they get like good service when they have really bad cases. There's a dead child, there's, severe burns, there's a missing leg. But if it's something that's just more like every day you're in pain, but it's not rising to that threshold of maybe like a seven-figure case or something, I feel like a lot of attorneys don't necessarily care about those people. And for me, I wanted personalized service. So that's why all of my clients have my actual direct cell phone number. There's just such like easy communication for myself and my clients. And I just wanted them to have a different experience than I had.
Jessica, it almost sounds like you turn your pain, that negative pain into something. I mean,
Yeah.
even from the education part of it and just saying like, you were a victim of all these things. And these are things that people probably never even knew. But I mean,
Yeah.
like at what point? I mean, you said you almost found solace just in school. That was kind of like your safe place. Isn't that something though to say like education was like your safe place to say this protects you from
Yeah.
everything else? That's something.
Yeah, for sure.
So how do you turn that energy? How do you turn that energy
Presence.
how do you turn that energy where there's all this negativity and then you're just like, I just have to make something positive. I mean, was it always like something running in your head saying, I can't go back there. I can't go back there. I got to go forward.
I think for me, it was just kind of like that there's always going to be all these variables happening in my life. Like, I'll give you an example. When I was 16 years old, I was walking to school and I got kidnapped at gunpoint
Oh no.
by this man. And it was like, I guess it was like an attempted rape type of situation. And I pretty much like negotiated my way out of it, unraped, unhurt, or anything. Like, obviously, it was a traumatizing situation, but for what it was, like getting kidnapped at gunpoint by this guy, being taken to this abandoned house, like it could have went so much, more differently. Like I could have not even been here today. And I was just like, I need to go to school. So I literally still went to
Wow.
school that day and went about it like nobody even knew that that was the situation that I had been involved with earlier that day. And it was always like things would always happen to me or have like these negative things go on. And it was like, I can always just still go to school. And I felt like I saw like a light of like a possibility, maybe at least like if I was able to go to school, then maybe I could get like a job that could take me out of this situation. It could
Wow.
help other people or, even my siblings and everything like that. That was kind of like what was always going in the back of my head.
Did you always have this feeling like I know there's something bigger for me than what I have now? You always had that in your head?
Yeah, I think I was really kind of fortunate because like when I first was born up until I was 12, I lived in a city called Dearborn, and it was more like Middle Eastern and more like middle class. We just were super poor in that city, and I saw like them with like their businesses and everything like that. But then I did move to Detroit, and it was like the exact opposite. Like it was really like desolate. People didn't really have anything. But I had like applied to go to high school in the suburbs, and I like applied for like 2 years, had to do all of these hoops and everything to get in. So I was with a lot of students in high school that were actually really rich. Like they were paying like 25,000 to go there. I was on a
Oh,
scholarship, but being able to see that kind of helped me where it's like their dad's picking them up in like a Porsche and like they have all of this money and I didn't have any of it. And I was taking the city bus to get there. But I think just having those people as like my classmates, seeing them, seeing their parents was like, okay, like if I go through school, like maybe I can do something differently with my life.
Yeah. And I was just about to ask you, Jessica, like what motivates you? There's two sides. There's a personal side of all of us, and then there's the professional side of all of
Right.
us. What motivates the personal side of you?
I think for me, it's being able to be in a position to help the next generation of people that are kind of in that same boat. And I think sometimes when you make it to the other side, some people don't realize how much like
Mm,
something so small can mean to the next generation. So for me, like I have a million girls like reaching out to me all the time that want me to mentor them or speak to them. And I say yes to all of them. Like I may not be able to follow up with them as much as I would like, but I tell them like, hey, you have my cell phone. When you want to talk, call me. If I don't respond, then like message me again. Like you're not bothering me. I just get a lot of messages, and
yeah.
I'll talk to them as long as they want to talk. Because that same person may not know any other attorney, and specifically, they probably don't know any black attorneys, and especially like a black female attorney. For me, like I didn't know any black attorneys or anything like that until I was actually a black attorney. So just having like that, you might have a 20-minute conversation with a person and think nothing of it. Like, oh, I just chatted with them while I drove somewhere. And I've had so many people come back to me years later and say, hey, you remember when you talked to me 4 years ago? I'm an attorney now. And I'm like, I don't remember when I talked to you, but like, I'm so happy that that's been the case. So I think that really helps me so much. Like, it just gives me such like a fulfilled feeling in my personal life and also kind of like within my career.
I think in the last 12 minutes that you and I have been talking, I bet none of your Instagram followers knew that much about you.
I would agree. Like I said, it's been a subject that I never really wanted to talk about. Like for the few people in my life that did know about it, and like my family, they've always told me like I should speak about it. But I think for me, like I get a lot of a lot of positive comments, but I also get a lot of negative comments. And I just feel like it was something where I didn't want to be hearing negative comments about actual parts of my life that actually were like issues for me. So I kind of just like focused on, my current present life. But recently I was just kind of like, a lot of people are not going to be able to understand me or feel as connected or see themselves as much as me as they would if they knew like, hey, my situation might have been the same or even worse, or at least somewhat along the same lines of what you were dealing with. So it may be more helpful for them to see like, okay, like somebody that was in this situation is now in the situation I want to be in. So that was kind of what made me decide to talk about it when I was doing that speech. And then since the cat's already out the bag,
Yeah.
I'm like, I might as well talk about it here as well.
Yeah. Wow. Wow. Jessica, that's strong. I mean, you told me what motivates the personal side of you. What motivates the attorney, the esquire? What motivates that side of you?
So for me, like I said before, like I really like being able to have that personalized service with my client. A lot of people they go to attorneys, they're like, I never speak to an attorney. I don't even know who, the
Mm,
attorney is. And so just having them in a situation where they can actually speak to me, having them where I know they're gonna get good results, and then also giving other people opportunities. Like throughout the years of my career, I've been able to give a lot of people opportunities, whether it's through jobs, whether it's through internships, whether it's just me mentoring them, whether I'm reviewing, documents for them. They want to be in PI, they don't really understand it. So kind of just like helping them get into the field. For me, that makes me feel really fulfilled. And then also like I really did love being a prosecutor. And I think people they hear prosecution and they're like, you're the
yeah.
feds, you're the
Yeah.
cops, like what's wrong with you? And I'm like,
Yeah.
here's the thing you don't understand.
Yeah.
If your brother does something, he does a crime, right? Or
Mhm.
even your son does a crime. He's 16 years old, but he's 6 foot tall. He's caught with a joint or something. You can have a cop that's a local policeman that may say, "Hey, Tyrone, I'm taking you back to your mom and dad. Like they need to, straighten you out." Or you can have a cop that says, "Hey, I'm taking you to jail, and I'm going to charge you like, oh, like you're distributing, you're, within this much of a school. Now it's this felon, whatever." Or you can have a cop that sees a 6 foot tall black boy who's only 16 years old, who
Mhm.
has a Skittles pack in his pocket, or he has a drink or something, or a cell phone, and thinks it's a gun, and he's afraid of black people. So he shoots him, and now those parents don't have a child.
Wow.
And that carries on to
We've
prosecution.
seen
That
we've
carries
seen that before. We've seen that
Huh?
before.
Exactly. And that carries on to the prosecutor, that carries on to the judge. So you can have a team full of people that don't look like you prosecuting yourself, your son, your husband. And it could be just a small blip in who that person is. And it could just be something that they did this crime because they had to do it. Like they're not even having basic food, water, shelter. So yes, it was wrong that they stole from here, there, the third, from Walmart or something like that. But at the end of the day, like this is the underlying cause. And so you may have a prosecution office where they're focused on convictions, putting people away for the longest, or you have prosecution offices that are focused on rehabilitation. Like, what is the root cause of this? Like, hey, let's set up these programs. Like here in Fulton County, the solicitor here, he has a lot of programs set up that
Yeah.
are encouraging getting jobs, that are putting men in these programs where they're going to have a trade, putting younger people in programs that they're going to have a trade or they're going to go into school or whatever else, so that they're not recidivists, instead of, hey, let's put them in prison for 2 years so that they learn a lesson. They're not going to learn a lesson. Now they're going to have a felony. Now they're going to have a prison stint. Now they're going to go back out and do the same thing, if not worse. So just realizing like who your prosecutor is can be the difference between you getting help or you just being in prison for a circumstance. And not to say like everyone doesn't need prison. Some people,
Hmm.
that may be the situation, but a lot of people just need some help and just need some understanding and some compassion. And that comes from having prosecutors that look like you, instead of having people from outside of your community coming in and prosecuting your community. And that also goes into the judiciary as well. People vote for the president, and the president is cool. That's nice to vote for them, but it's so much more important to vote for your local officials that will be in charge of who picking the solicitor, picking the local judges and everything like that is so much more important for me, I feel, than selecting a president, because that's at such a high level.
That's what Killer Mike says. He says, yeah, he said that's all cool, but he said you need to know who your local government is what he says.
Exactly. That's who's going to be prosecuting you. That's who's going to be keeping your streets clean and everything.
So, you mentioned, people looking like you, representing people who look like you. And, there's about, I think the last stat was about 38% of the women inside of the United States, or 30% of the attorneys in the United States are women. And probably even a smaller percent is, women of color, And I wanted to ask you, I mean, in your experience, especially as a female attorney, how has that shaped your approach to building your firm? Saying, I'm different, but I'm going to shape my firm in this way.
So yes, the 30% of women that are attorneys is such a large number compared to the attorneys that are Black women. The percentage is actually 2.5%. Of attorneys that are Black women. It's 5% of attorneys overall that are Black.
Wow.
So Black women is a significant minority. And I think for me, that was a daunting task when I became an attorney. Like I felt like wherever I went, it was mostly spaces where everyone did not look like me, and
Mhm,
just kind of being like uncomfortable and learning how to have my own voice and just kind of being able to navigate those rooms.
mhm,
And I do think that one thing that is important, like within our community, I feel like we sometimes just lean towards only people that look like us. And I feel like that is good. But I feel like, for example, like there's a big attorneys like Ben Crump or something, everyone knows. He
yep,
probably gets messaged every day for, I get messaged so much, and he's so much more popular than I am. So I can't even imagine how many internships, job requests this man gets every single day. And though
yeah,
he wants to help people, it's like there's only but so many jobs, there's only but so many internships. He has probably like 10 interviews with like the biggest news stations each day. So he just doesn't necessarily have that time. Whereas there may be, a white counterpart that a person would of color may overlook, that may not get approached as much, or may not be as known, but may have just as many connections. So I think it's important to branch outside when you're looking for like mentorship and everything like that. But for me, as far as like the aspect of being a Black female, one thing I do think is important is having community. So even though we do have to go to these spaces to be around people we don't look like, I think it's nice having community with people you do look like, for like that sense of peace or like understanding and like relatability. So I do have like a lot of events and everything. That's something I'm always doing. Like I just had a happy hour that I hosted where I rented out a venue. And I don't know if you know Pont City Market, but I rented out a venue there here in Atlanta, like what, 2 months ago. And I'm always kind of doing things like that through my brand Lawyer Base. I've been doing that for years. I've had that since 2017. So I've done so many events I can't even count in a bunch of different states.
I tell you, man, you're a force. I don't think I really don't think you realize that. I don't
I
think you
appreciate
realize, how much you've accomplished and what you're doing. You're inspiring a lot of people.
it.
Now, in doing the firm, and starting the firm and making sure, like you put your personal touch on the firm, what are some of the challenges that you have had starting the firm or even having a firm now? What are some of the challenges that you've had?
Honestly, so I was with basically since I've been in PI, I was kind of with the same group since 2018. And I just now kind of like fully left and started my own firm a couple of weeks ago. I
Mhm.
don't really feel like within that I really had honestly any challenges.
Mhm.
I think more of my challenges were beforehand with different aspects of the other firm where went from being an associate to a managing partner. I think it was kind of like when we first started, a lot of people didn't know the firm, and it was like the way that clients expect, like if they talk to the big white firms, they're okay with, any sense of delegation. The owner of that firm probably never speaks to them, and they're okay with that. They're okay never talking to an attorney. But when they would speak to us, it's like, okay, every single day they expect to only
Mm.
talk to you. And it's like, I have to talk to you, and I have to talk to you right in this second. They don't want to make an appointment. It's like
Wow.
right in this second. And I do make myself very available to clients, but it's like, even still, it was like that exact second with that exact person every single time they called. And it's like, that's just unrealistic, because we do have court, we do have other clients. So it would just
Mhm.
be unrealistic. Some of that would be like a frustration, but this was like back in like 2018. Sometimes like when you're an attorney that's of color, like even when you're going to court, I've had instances, and this has been some years back now, especially when I was younger. I've been an attorney since I was 24. So they probably didn't think I was an attorney, I guess. But, I
Wow.
would get to court and they're like asking me all these questions like, oh, are you a defendant? Are you a court reporter? And I've had so many of my friends kind of have those same things happen to them. Whereas like, our counterparts would just, walk on by. They wouldn't be like, you know, basically stopping
Wow.
them, asking them for the credentials and all of this type of stuff. So it was more of like earlier in my career, I would say. And I would say honestly had like a pretty easy process with the rebrand that I put out recently.
Well, I think you're changing that. I think you're gonna be walking through a lot of doors and with no ID and all that stuff. Jessica, let me ask you
Of
this.
course.
Because one of the things about having a company or even a law firm is you always have to, and even when we work with people, I always ask people, okay, you have a law firm, what kind of law firm do you want to be? You
Right.
know, what kind of law firm do you want to be? And so now I want to ask you, what kind of law firm do you want your firm to be, Jessica?
So I want to be a law firm, and I am a law firm that is client focused, client centered, that delivers results and zealous advocacy, and also that is putting the money back in the community, both in the community that I live in and
Mhm.
also in other disenfranchised, disadvantaged communities, and also being a firm that not only will take on clients that look like me, but also hire people that look like me, because I feel like a lot of these firms, yes, they give out turkeys, they may give out those turkeys for Thanksgiving or whatever.
Right.
But
Right.
when you look at who's on the firm website, it's nobody that looks like their clients. They
Mm.
pander to those communities and they get clients from those communities. They make millions and millions of dollars off of those communities. And then they don't hire those people. And if they do hire them, they have them as assistants. And even if they're an attorney, they're not partner level attorneys or whatever it is. So I think that's really important, to have diversity in your firm and not just go into communities to make money, but also put that money back in those communities, put those opportunities back into those communities as well.
I think that's very real. I've seen that before.
Hmm.
I've seen, there are some of the biggest law firms where the majority of their dollars or their growth comes from minority communities.
Yeah.
But then you don't see them do a whole lot. I think the way that some of the firms, they'll think like, "Okay, well, let's just give something to the church and then we're in." You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then we're in, or let's give away a couple turkeys and we're in. Why that seems like it's like a not a hot button for you, but it's real important for you to make sure like you have a law firm that represents the true community. Is that right to say that you want something that represents all people?
I think that that is exactly what I think, and exactly how I feel. And I think the reason that happens, especially in personal injury is a lot different than some of these other fields. In these other fields, you need clients that actually have money to pay you. Personal
Mhm.
injury, I think typically the clients that are actually lower income are sometimes the best clients, because you have to go through this treatment. You have to actually go to these appointments almost like 2, 3 times a week, if not more sometimes. And
Mhm.
people like these doctors, these lawyers and everything, they just don't have time to do that to be successful with their case. So unless they're so hurt where it's like they have no other choice, a lot of times they don't go to the appointments. They're just not as consistent. So you notice if you actually look, a lot of these billboards, a lot of these ads play on like where they're going to cater to these type of people. Like they're going to play on daytime television. These billboards are, you're wondering, why does this big firm have a billboard right in the middle of the hood? It's like because these kind of make some of the best clients,
Wow.
and but then it's like at the end of the day, they still don't necessarily see them as human or actually care about them as people. It's just like, hey, this is where I can go make some money or whatever it is. And like you said, maybe I can give some money to this pastor or throw some turkeys at them, but there's no opportunities actually being given to them. And so for me, it's just like, not only are you not from the community, you're not a person of color or whatever it is, but it's also like you separate yourself completely, except for, hey, here's a few turkeys. And that, I mean, that pales into comparison to all the money that these people are bringing you, basically.
I think that's strong, and I think, for you to say that, I think that takes a lot of courage. I think that's brave, and I think that truthfully, it's I don't blame you because it's almost like, hey, you're getting your money from that community, but do you truly care about that community? It's like the old saying, back in the day, like, there's always a check cashing place, a liquor store, and a gun
Yeah.
store, and the worst parts of the
Yeah.
worst parts in the city, you know, and the people who own them, they get very wealthy from them. So that's
Mhm.
a great point. I want us to take a break because you're starting to heat this thing up, and I want us to come back and talk about,
Okay.
how you do things. I want to talk about the approach of law, like when you bring people in the door, because like you said, they don't know a whole lot, and you have to have that patience and understanding to be able to talk to them and talk them through the process. Is that cool?
Yes, of
All
course.
right, so we're going to take a break, real quick, and then we'll come right back.
Hold tight, listeners. We're taking a brief pause. Going forward, we'll be back shortly with more insightful conversations.
Running your law firm is a serious business. When you actually got out of law school, they didn't teach you how to market your business, or they didn't teach you exactly the business of running a law firm. And that's what we do. We want to be able to come in and work with you and your firm so that, one, you can start marketing your firm correctly, coach you on how to get to the next level and where you want to get your law firm. And most importantly, we don't want you to be one of those law firms who are a laughing stock of the community. Don't hire a marketing agency that's going to make you look like a buffoon online or social media and try and make you to be something that you are not. It's time for you to start running your firm the right way. Go to VIPmarketing.com. Hey, it's Eric here from VIP Marketing, and I want to ask you, digital marketers, something. Are you frustrated with your current PPC marketing campaigns? Well, I want to tell you about a tool that we use here at our agency. It's called Optmyzr. You have the ability to get your reports up to date and make sure that you get alerts on them. You can even work into workflows as well. So if you're frustrated with your campaigns right now in the reporting systems that you use, I want to give you a 14-day free trial of Optmyzr. Go to optmyzr.com/go/VIP. I keep the momentum going. Jessica, you're something, man. And for those people who may be just joining us right now, I'm on the line with Jessica Tehlirian of the TLG Law Group. She is an amazing lawyer, and boy, she's, like I told you, she was an onion, and we're starting to peel some of this stuff back, So all those folks who follow Jessica on social media, be sure to see, like, she's a lot more than what you see. Follow her and all the things that she has going on too. Such a positive person. So Jessica, I want to dive into this, because you
Mhm.
brought up something right before the break. You were saying, like, people don't have a whole lot of money, and that's why the personal injury lawyers are different, but it takes a different kind of person to be a personal injury lawyer, and I think the legal industry is really intimidating to some of those people who are not familiar with it, right? So how do you help your clients, like, feel comfortable or confident, when they're working with your firm? How do you do that?
Yes, so that's actually a really good question. I think the main thing that causes clients to be kind of like concerned or not feel like kind of feel uneasy is just
Hmm.
the lack of knowledge. So you have a person that's coming to the process with no understanding of how it works.
Right.
And for example, like when you bring the client on, once you get the liability established, you get their car fixed if it was their car, you kind of settle some of those other things right in the beginning. They're just treating for like a period of months or however long it takes them to finish treating.
Hmm.
And there's not really much to update at that point. So you're going to hear from your attorney, but they may think like, hey, I haven't heard anything in a couple of weeks, like something's wrong. Or, hey, where are my offers? It's like, there are no offers because you're treating. And if they don't understand where the money comes from and like what actually builds up the case value and what the actual offer is based off of, they'll
Right.
sometimes they'll think like I'm supposed to be giving an offer. Like I've actually received so many clients that have switched over to me from other firms. And the main thing is
Wow.
like they didn't understand the process at all. And I think that's why it's so important from the intake standpoint to set those expectations. And sometimes I have a client that will come to me and I can tell their expectations sometimes are unrealistic. Like, hey, I need this thing wrapped up in 2 months or like a month and a half. It's like, I mean, that's just not realistic because I can't even do a full treatment plan for you in that time frame. So
Yeah.
I like to just set their expectations up to be realistic and let them understand what it is because I think everyone can understand when you kind of just tell them from the outset what it's going to look like instead of like over promising and under delivering just to take a case. I'd rather
Oh,
you
that's
not sign up
important.
with
That's
me.
important.
Exactly. I'd rather you not sign up with me and you feel like I had my integrity and I told you what it would be instead of like she told me every single day I was going to get a phone call from her personally. It's like that's
Wow.
obviously not realistic. Like I can't do that. Like clients can't like they can call, every time they want, but we just no firm is going to talk to every single client every single
Mhm.
day. Like that's just not the best use of time. And there's also nothing to report every single solitary day. Like
It's
if
true.
y'all
Yeah.
are if y'all in the middle of trial or something, like that's different. But if it's just like you're treating, there's nothing to report. So we do give periodic updates, while you're, treating just to like check in and see more so from you, how's treatment going? Is everything
Mhm.
okay? What's going on with that? But there's just nothing really happening at that point. And then when you send the offer, you send the demand off, the insurance company typically will have 30 days to respond. So if the client doesn't understand that, they may say, "Oh, it's been 2 weeks. Where are my offers?" It's like they don't have to respond yet. So
Right.
just setting up those realistic expectations that help clients kind of understand the process. I think that's been one of the biggest things for the clients where they're so happy when they actually understand what to expect. They understand the time frames. They understand like, hey, this is a process. Sometimes even I've had one of the biggest concerns I feel like I've had to dispel for clients is they say, I don't want the doctor taking all my money. And I have to explain to them, there's no free lunch out here. So you can be
Right.
as hurt as you want to be. And unless you're dead, we need to, you need to be able to prove those injuries. And the way you do that is with
You have to see a
um,
medical professional.
exactly. And they have to show
Yeah.
objective findings. So if you're coming in saying you're hurt, that's great. But they need to see the MRI. They need to see these different scans that'll show them objectively that you are hurt because you could say that all day and not be hurt. They
Mhm.
need to see those objective findings. And so when they understand like the doctor's treatment as well as their bills actually kind of is the thing that's bolstering their case, like that's the thing that's helping them because you could be a just as
Yeah.
hurt as you want to be, but if you don't treat, no attorney is really going to want to touch your case because there's no money there. And so you have to treat in a timely fashion and continue to do that and stay on your treatment plan. And I feel like that's one of the biggest things I've had to dispel for so many of my clients when they came in or when they first start treating. Like, I don't know, I've went a couple times. I just, don't want to have them taking all my money. I'm like, you don't have any money. This is actually building up your case value. So just being there to explain the processes, I think is one of the things that the clients just really, really appreciate and help them go through the process the best way they can and really understand everything that's going on.
That's helpful. I think it actually helps you in the long run.
Mhm.
But, there's also always misconceptions. What do you think are some of the misconceptions that people may have about personal injury lawyers?
I think one of the biggest things they say is like, the ambulance chaser thing that they put out there a lot. Or
Mhm.
I think that is one of the things that is really like something we're not allowed to do. I don't know about every jurisdiction, but for most jurisdictions, you have to at least wait 30 days before just going off and contacting a client
Yeah.
that's not wanting you to contact them.
Mhm.
So doing that, chasing an ambulance or whatever else. Like some people get leads through like trucking, the tow truck or like the police. Like all of that stuff is not approved by the bar, so you can get in a lot of trouble for that. And
Wow.
for me,
The
yeah,
tow
like I
truck.
stick to what the bar allows, and I don't do those type of things. Like it's nice to have extra cases, but I always put the integrity first. And one case can take you down, and everything.
Yeah.
And I don't want to compromise my bar, or my principles, or my integrity. So if it's something that's not approved, I don't do it. I let the clients. They come to me. They know me, or someone else has recommended them, and they're fine with me talking to them. They want to talk to me. So that's one of the things I feel like that's actually not approved. That most attorneys, the ones that have integrity, do not actually do. Another thing I would think is that just like lawyers are just like liars, they lie about everything. I think that's just for all the attorneys. I feel like everyone just kind of thinks that. When really it's like, if you didn't have an attorney, most that the insurance is probably going to give you is a couple $1,000s. And that's if you're really
Mm.
lucky. For the most part, they're not giving you anything. So, what, even though, of course, we do get our percentage, like 9 times out of 10, and I would say even probably more than 9 times out of 10, you're not going to get anything. If anything, you're going to get something really small without
Right.
our help and without the doctors helping bolster your claim with actually treating you with those objective findings and everything like that. So I think they're just like, you're taking all my money. I'm like, there's no money. Has the insurance company offered you $100,000 that I don't know about? Because
And truthfully, you're actually, you got skin in the game because you don't get
yeah,
paid unless they get paid, and sometimes
exactly.
you have to make that understood.
Exactly. And I think that's the biggest thing. Cause like if you do criminal or you do family, if they charge 10,000, they got the 10,000 regardless of whether you go to jail or not, regardless of whether you get your kid or not, regardless of whether you get child support. It's not returned because they got a bad result. They went to
Yeah.
trial, they earned their money, or they did the plea deal, whatever, they earned their money. For us, I could spend months or even years on your case, and if I don't recover anything, I get zero. We have the same interest to get the most money and in the shortest time, because until you get paid, I don't get paid. Until you get a bigger amount, I'm not getting a bigger amount. It's all based on, it goes up based on what you're getting, and the time being shortened is always, of course, better for us as well to get the money quicker. So we're kind of on the same page with that as far as our client, our interests financially are aligned.
Now, you mentioned, when people come to you now, things have changed. You've been in law, you've been practicing law for 10 years. And boy, I know I've been in marketing for like 20 years, and I know, and in 10 years, you've seen so many things happening, right? And like now everything's become, such a digital age. Do you think social media actually helps law firms and law firm owners now to
So
be able to
yeah,
grow their firm?
pardon. So yes, I do believe that is the case. I'm not sure if you're aware. I actually even wrote a book on the subject. I wrote that, I think it was last year or the year before that. About getting social media, or sorry, about getting clients from social media. And for me, honestly, like predominantly, like I would say 80 to 90% of my clients have come through social media. And if you include the attorneys that send me cases that probably have initially met me on social media, it'd probably go up to around 95% of my clients have
Wow.
come in one way or another from social media. A lot of my opportunities, I mean, I'm here speaking to you today from social media. A lot of my speaking engagements are from
That's
social
true.
media and everything else. Or even if they're not directly from there, it's like a person that knew a person knew me from social media initially. And then we become friends, but the initial relationship started off from one of my social media platforms. So I think the ability to gain not only clients, also if you're interested in like speaking opportunities or even volunteering or networking, whatever it
Mhm.
is, that is just so easy to get from social media compared to having to go to all of these different places, which I think is also good to do the regular marketing and be out in the community as well. But it's so like much easier. Like a lot of times I do
Yes.
events and I might meet somebody there, but when I post about the event, I get so much more in the regard of clients and also just like more opportunities than I probably did at the actual event itself. And I feel like a lot of clients, it's nice because they actually see who you are as a person. So instead
Yes,
of like,
yes.
when it's the other way around, when you get the client and then you're just on social media, sometimes like for me, I have a big personality on social media. So if that was the case, if it was the other way around, I might be like, oh, I don't want them to find my Instagram. But it's like, you guys know my Instagram. So you know I like to travel, you know I like to shop, you know I
Wow.
like, to have a good time. So it's not like something I have to be afraid of. And I don't have a boss where I'm like, oh, my boss is gonna find it. It's like whoever wants to deal with me already knows what they're getting. And it's kind of like nice that I don't feel like I have to hide my personality. And I feel like a lot of my clients actually like that about me and are probably like,
Mhm.
okay, well, if she can afford to do X, Y, Z, she probably is going to get a good amount of money from me. So like, they don't really see it as like a negative thing, I would say. But yeah, I feel like the ability to get clients is just so nice because you have a captive audience that likes
Mhm.
you and is following you. And they may not need you right then, but some of my clients have been following me for years. And
Wow.
they're like, they just finally got in a crash or they finally had something happen in the personal injury field. And they're like, hey, you're the attorney I know, like, what do I do, type of thing. So I definitely think if you're not on social media as an attorney, that you're missing out. And I think some of these older attorneys are like, well, I don't want to sing and dance. It's like, you don't have to do that. You can be whoever you are.
Good point.
You don't
Good
have to,
point.
you don't have to be, I don't know how to dance. I don't dance on my social media because I'm not going to, I will dance when I'm out with friends because I know I'm not putting it on anywhere, but I don't post myself dancing and I would never do that for social media because I don't want to be dragged because I know I don't have any rhythm. So it's just, you can be yourself. Like, and honestly, some of these older attorneys that actually do get on social media do much better because it's kind of funny seeing an old person like,
Like
doing
John
really,
Morgan.
yeah,
Yeah,
it's
like
like
John Morgan.
he's like getting high and stuff. All like his page is like smoking weed and whatever, and like he's like the biggest law firm in America. So you can be yourself if that's what you like and that's what you're into. Like you can do that or whatever it is because people are gonna like who you are as a person. People like seeing your personality. It's not enough these days to be like even with celebrities like. I love Beyonce. I'm part of the Beehive, but I feel like a lot of people criticize her and criticize her products because they feel like they don't know her as a person. They feel like she puts out a hair care product and they don't see like really her using it. They see when she put it out, it's like her with these random two stylists doing it or whatever. They want to see you as a person. Like they see Rihanna like putting the stuff on, putting the makeup on, like doing her like regular selfie videos with it. People want more of like a closeness to the people that they're working with these days. Even with brands, like they want to see more of that brand identity, I feel like, than ever before. It's not good enough to just you see Coca-Cola wherever. It's like you want to see
Yeah.
more of like that personality behind the brand, and that leaks over to the legal field as well.
So was it ever hard for you to turn the camera on yourself to become that person who's on camera?
It wasn't that it was hard to be on the camera because I feel like that's something I've always loved. I think for me, I used to get criticized a lot for it. Like when I first got out of law school in 2014, people would tell me I need to like basically not be on social media or not
Mm,
post how I post because I feel like, being like I consider myself to be an attractive female, it's just like you could be doing the same thing as someone that's not, and you're gonna get criticized for it. So if I go to the
yeah,
beach and I'm in Bali and I'm posting myself, on the beach, it's like, oh my God, what are you doing? Whereas if you're, not as good of a shape, or you're like not don't look as good and you're posting yourself, with a fish or something like someone else may do, it's like, oh, they're just, whatever. It's like
yeah.
the less attractive you are, kind of like you can do the same thing, but it doesn't get criticized as much. And I feel like that was something I was getting criticized a lot for, was just, and it wasn't like I was just posting something just so crazy, but just anything like where you can post a selfie and it's like if you look better, it's like, oh my God, like, you're attention seeking
Mm,
or whatever else. So I used to just get criticized a lot for it, but it was like this was just who I felt like I wanted to be, and I didn't want to change my personality to fit in with people. And I will caveat that with saying I at certain times I would hide my page, make it private or whatever it
mm.
was. Like when I was applying for the job, the bar, or when I was first starting off and I was applying for jobs, I'm like, okay, principles aside, I need a job. So I'm in a position right now where I don't need a job. I don't need anybody to deal with me. And if a person doesn't want to deal with me, I don't really care.
Good for you.
But bear that in mind. If you're not in that position, sometimes you have to play the game, So I'm just not in a position where I have to play the game anymore. But that was something I used to get a lot of criticism for. And I even to this day, I feel like some people are still like negative, especially if a video of mine does pretty well. It's like there's definitely going to be people being negative in the comments for sure.
Jessica, you have such an inspiring story.
Thank you.
Give me 3 things that you would say to a young lawyer coming up, male or female, that
Mhm.
what would you say to them?
The first thing I would say is don't listen to the noise, the naysayers. You'll even meet some attorneys that are like, "Oh, it's so hard. You don't want to do it," and drive off in their Porsche. And I'm like, I don't really care what you have to say. I like that car. I'm gonna go get one myself. But just keep going. Don't let anybody stop you. Always keep in mind your why. And then also make sure you're doing it for yourself and not for other people. It's really easy
Mm,
to get caught up in what other people want for you for your
wow,
career. And even within the field, you may hear someone else tell you that this is not, I don't like family law. I might say I don't like family law, and now you don't like family law. But you may actually give it a chance and love it. So just make sure you're doing the career itself and also the field itself,
good
just
point,
based on
good
what you
point.
actually want to do and not what someone else has kind of pushed you to do or pushed you away from doing.
Good point.
Thank you.
Now, and I'd like to ask you this, and then we're gonna take a final break. What would Jessica today say to young Jessica growing up?
Well, first, I would really just give myself a hug and probably tell myself that I was proud of myself for everything I've accomplished. And then I think my biggest problem that I've had my whole life, even to this
Wow.
day, is just to like smell the flowers and appreciate the moment that I'm actually in. I think one thing that actually helped me get to where I was always kind of being forward looking, like never really accepting an accomplishment, kind of just always like I'll be at graduation and be thinking about the next thing. I'll be getting an award and thinking about the next award. Whatever I'm doing, I'm kind of thinking about the next thing. And I'm still bad at it, but I'm actually at least aware of it and working on it. So I think just like appreciating my wins. Don't, I don't want to stay on them for too long because I do want to go on to the next one and keep going. But
Wow.
I feel like just kind of like, okay, yeah, that was a good win. Like be happy for yourself for at least the rest of the day before like criticizing and thinking about what the next thing you need to accomplish is.
Man, Jessica, we're gonna take one final break. We're gonna
Okay.
come back and we're gonna wrap this thing up, man.
Okay. Sounds good.
I absolutely love your story now. It's almost like
Thank
now
you.
like whenever I see you now, it's like I appreciate everything you post now a lot more, you know?
Well, I
And I'm
appreciate it.
glad that people are getting to hear this side of you. So let's take one final break and then we'll come right back.
Hold tight, listeners. We're taking a brief pause. Going forward, we'll be back shortly with more insightful conversations.
Are we fucking ready? Roll cameras. Action!
Allow me to reintroduce myself. My name is Hov. H to the OV. I used to move snowflakes by the OZ. I guess even back then you can call me CEO of the ROC. Ho, fresh out the frying pan into the fire. I be the music biz #1 supplier. Fly it in a piece of paper bearing my name. Got the hottest chick in the game wearing my chain. That's right.
Man, and if you are just joining us, I have the wonderful, amazing Miss Jessica Tehlirian on the line from TLG Personal Injury Lawyers, too. And she's actually a lawyer in 2 states, Georgia and Florida. I got that right?
Yes, he did.
I'm going to give a round of applause to our research team because, boy, they've been researching
I
you lately.
see.
I'm super excited to talk to you today. And I think I learned so much just getting that story and kind of hearing about your approach and kind of what I heard a little bit ago is a lot of passion for how you serve people and how you serve the community. I want to ask you now, like, what's next for TLG Accident Lawyers? What's going to be next? Because, like you said right before the break, you said those wheels are always turning.
Yeah.
Where are those wheels going for the next 5 years, Jessica?
Yes. So basically my plan right now is I'm actually focusing, I'm going to spend a year approximately of focusing on doing as many volunteering opportunities, mentorship opportunities, doing my own events in relation to those type of things, and then also doing other people's events, speaking engagements or whatever it is. That's basically what I'm going to spend the next year on. And at the same time, doing a great keeping a great standard for my clients. And then after that year is up, I'm going to basically do the same thing I did with my previous firm, which is to expand the firm. So I helped expand my last firm from 1 office in Jacksonville, Florida to about 8 offices around the country. And then we also had another office in Ghana. So I'm pretty much going to ramp that up. But I'm going to give it a year of just basically doing more in the community, doing more speaking and everything like that. I'm doing that for a year. And then the next year after that will be pretty much just expanding the office out and continuing to expand the office out as much as possible. And to that point, I have a scholarship brunch actually this Sunday. It's for pre-law and law students. Myself,
Awesome.
my partner, she's not my law partner, but she's my partner on the project. We're both attorneys here in Atlanta. We put up our own money for hosting the event. We're actually going to be one of the donors each ourselves. We're donating as well. So none of the money we got from the donations is going to the event. It's going directly to the students. So we're going to have a dynamic panel of local attorneys that will be speaking to the students on various topics that are relevant to pre-law and law students. We also have a keynote speaker who runs a company that helps with bar prep, scholarships, and everything like that. We also have, when you're in pre-law or even law students, you're always hungry. So we have, of course, the complimentary brunch. And then the main thing is that we're going to be giving out scholarships. Fortunately, like we got donations. We didn't even have any grants or anything. We just raised money through our friends, family members, and local attorneys
That
as
is
well.
awesome.
And we raised approximately $20,000. And so we're going to be giving the scholarships to the pre-law and the law students. And we hope to make this an annual event. And I think by next year, I do have a 501c3 that I'm running the donations through. I hope for next year I'll have grants that I'll be able to secure. I have a grant writer that I think is going to be coming on. So I hope to do even more scholarships, help even more students, make the event even bigger. But I was really happy with the results, given that we put this together in, I would say, like less than a month. So just having it come from like, we had like a little idea together, and it went from
Yeah.
that to like having a whole event where we expect to have between like, I think like 70 to 100 people that'll be there. We just actually did a new segment last week, putting it out. So we've been getting even more people messaging us after we did that segment. But yeah, we just really hope to help have the event grow and be a thing that we continue, and hope to give even more and more scholarships, where we're hopefully at one point being able to pay for full, academic experiences for a student for like law school or for college or whatever. That's what the goal is with that organization, or sorry, with that event. But this was, like I said, the first year, and this was just something we were able to pull off within a month.
Man, you are not messing around. You're not kidding when you are like doing one thing, you're working on 5 things. But I'm
Yeah.
not gonna let you off the hook because you mentioned Ghana, doing an office in Ghana?
Yes. That wasn't really PI. Like a lot of other countries don't really do PI. It was more for like land acquisition for Americans that want to be buying property abroad, and kind of like there's that fear when you're dealing with Africa that you might be getting taken advantage of, you might be getting scammed, there might not actually be the property there. So having that liaison of like, hey, this is a company that's based in America, you can kind of trust us and everything else, so that we can help you basically acquire the property there and go through all the steps with respect to that.
Wow. Isn't that something now? With all that stuff happening, I don't know when and how you sleep, but then, my question now is, like, as a firm founder, a leader, philanthropist, entrepreneur, all these things you're doing, and also how do you balance the demands of the law firm, in being you? How do you manage that? How do you do that?
So I think for me, one thing that is important is having a great team. I think sometimes, especially us as Black people, and especially like being a Black woman, there's this pressure sometimes that you have to do everything yourself. You have a baby, it's like something's wrong with you if you have someone at nighttime making sure the baby's taken care of so you can actually sleep, or that there's kind of these things that get put on you. And I think for me, I think it's more important for me to carry out my visions, even if I have people that are helping me with those things and helping me allowing me to delegate some of the tasks, so that I
Mhm.
can have the most success and be able to do the most good for the most people, instead of doing every single thing myself. That wouldn't really be possible or plausible. So it just makes the most sense where, like, within my law firm, like, I have a team. Within this event, it was only myself and Cynthia, so that we have put a lot of time into it. But I think by next year, I'll have more people set up in place, so that we can have even more donations and even more people that are coming as students and everything. But I think that's the most important thing, having a team, being able to delegate and being able to make sure that everything is still kept to your standard. Because for me, I didn't want to have a life that centers only around work. So I do really enjoy
Right.
traveling. I do enjoy, having a night out like yesterday. It was my fiance, it was her 10-year anniversary of being in her career. So I took her to the game. We were able to do that. We went to eat. Like, those things are important to me. I don't want to just be like, hey, I'm working all day. Like, I was working all day, but then I still got dressed, we went to the game. And in those moments I was present. I wasn't like, oh, I got to do my email, when we're at dinner and stuff. We just got to enjoy her celebration. And it wasn't like everything is still about work, because I do enjoy turning it off and being able to be a sister, being able to be a daughter, being able to be a fiance, a friend, and everything. And when I'm in those moments, I like to really be in those moments, just the same way when I'm in my lawyer mode or when I'm in my philanthropic mode. I like to be in those moments as well.
Absolutely. And the truth is we can't do what we do unless we have good people behind us. That can be family,
Yes.
friends, people we love. And so you can go ahead and give that your fiance a shout out right now because uh you owe her for
Shout
her
out to
for
my
her
baby
support.
Emerald.
All right. So shout out to you. Now, lastly, how can people reach out to you? We know the handle. I want you to give them the Instagram handle. How can they reach out to you, find out what you have going on? I think a lot of people want to reach out to you just to be inspired by you. You said there's a lot of people that are writing you,
Mhm.
even young ladies. So how can people find you?
So I'm basically everywhere, on pretty much all the platforms. So on LinkedIn, is my name going to be on here? Is it going to be where they can see my name?
Oh yeah, we'll have your name.
Oh,
We'll tag you up. We'll have you all over here.
okay. Okay, perfect. So my LinkedIn handle and my Facebook handle is just my name, Jessica Tehlirian. My Instagram, I have two Instagrams that are like for me personally, Attorney Jessica, which is my business page, and then my personal page is Jessica_Esquire. I'm also the lawyer base founder, so that's lawyer then BAES. And then on Twitter, it's also Jessica_Esquire. And then my cell phone number is 904-888-9972. My website is tlgaccidentattorneys.com. So any one of those platforms would be great.
Your phone number is going to be blowing up. I don't know if you remember the whole song years ago. Mike Jones had it. And he
Oh,
would he
yeah.
put it, what was it? 280 8004. And so you're going to be like Mike Jones soon with your number out there.
I'm here for it.
Yeah. Jessica, I want to thank you for being an amazing, amazing guest. We talked about, your upbringing. We talked about the things that motivate you. We talked about law firm, your approach to law, and how you want to be able to treat people as well. And I also want to thank, our amazing Going Forward Nation for giving us their most valuable asset, which is their time. That's one thing, regardless of how much money you have, you just can't buy it back. So Jessica, you've an amazing guest. Hold the line for me, and we're going to just go ahead and tell everybody peace. All right. Thank you so much. I want to thank you all for giving us your most valuable asset, your time. And also a huge thank you to our sponsors over at Optmyzr. For all of you who are running PPC campaigns and you want to see how to do it better and get better results and actually boost the performance of your campaigns and save time, get a free trial at optmyzr.com/go/VIP.
If you enjoyed today's episode, please take a moment to rate our podcast and share it with a friend. Every share, every comment, every rating propels us forward. For more content, insights, and updates, visit ericelliott.com. Remember, your journey, your story is what keeps us going forward. Until next time.